Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of What Makes This Game Awesome. I'm a big, although fairly new fan to Atlus's Persona series. I was introduced to it through Persona 4 on the PS Vita, and I've been pretty hooked on the idea of forming bonds with realistic and well-developed characters ever since. A little while ago, Persona 5 was announced, and of course I wanted to buy it and play through the whole thing so that you guys could get a What Makes This Game Awesome on it. The problem is, these games are almost entirely based on long, spoiler-ridden storylines, and Atlus have basically said that if you spoil it past a certain point, then they'll take down my channel. So I have decided to make a slightly shorter review that still encompasses what's good and bad about the game, and hopefully you guys can make a decision on whether or not you want to buy it based on that. This review should be good if you've ever played a Persona game before, or if you haven't and this is the first time you've ever heard of one. So today I'm going to be talking about Persona 5 and what makes this game awesome. Don't worry, it's spoiler free. It's very hard to describe a Persona game without making it sound boring at first, but at its base, it's a time management RPG. It places an emphasis on forming bonds with other characters over the course of a year, and fighting the shadows in the shadow world with them, where people's true dark desires manifest in the form of palaces. The storyline is probably the best part of the game, and let me tell you, you'll be putting a lot of time into this game if you want to play it the whole way through. On average, the storyline, with none of the side quests, will take you 95 to 100 hours to complete. And while that may sound daunting to some people, I can safely say that it won't get boring. The characters that you meet through the story have realistic, deep and developed personalities, and the game causes you to get attached to them very quickly. As the storyline progresses, you'll find yourself growing to know these characters as friends, each having relatable and well-written personalities that make them fun to talk to. Also, I'd like to say that about 70 to 80% of the dialogue in the game is fully voice acted, with really good, not at all cheesy English voice actors that do the characters justice.
If a huge castle like that really exists, I'm sure we'll find it in no time. When did they build something like that, though?
None of that Titus shit here. The combat of the game is a perfect example of how to do turn-based combat. It has a simple to grasp concept, but has lots of depth to it, allowing for satisfying combos, and being centered around the idea of using an enemy's weak element against it to knock it over, allowing your character to have another turn called a one more. You can attack with melee weapons and guns that you equip your team with, but also with manifestations of your inner emotions, personas. These allow you to do elemental and stronger versions of your standard melee attacks, and your character has the ability to hold multiple personas, and switch them once per turn, as well as using the personas of your friends. If you use their weak elements to knock down all of the enemy personas, you can either do a really cool all-out attack, which looks so badass, or talk to the personas, asking them for money, items, or talking with them to try and gain their trust so they join your party. I absolutely love this mechanic. It reminds me of Undertale and manages to keep every fight interesting, and makes the personas feel like brainwashed characters, not just mindless enemies. You can also fuse personas, sacrificing 2, 3 or more depending on where you are in the story to create a stronger persona. These personas have classes, and each character you form a bond with in the game will provide bonuses for when you fuse personas in their specific class, like bonus experience or extra moves. For example, the bond you form with Ryuji in this game will grant you extra experience in the Chariot Arcana, so it's important to manage your time between interacting with these characters, revising for schoolwork, and joining the Phantom Thieves in a dive into the Shadow World. It may sound kind of confusing, but when you play the game it feels very natural, and you'll come to understand it quickly. The palaces that you explore are much more varied than in Persona 4, with less flaws but a much more complicated structure, and introducing stealth mechanics, placing an emphasis on only fighting enemies that you know you can fight. You can teleport between safe rooms in the palace without any required items, which is great and feels much more natural than the item-based travel system that Persona 4 uses. I can't really say much more about the palaces without spoiling stuff, and also I can't really say much more about the story, and it definitely would be better to experience it for yourself, but take my word for it when I say it's well written and a great emotional story that you will almost definitely enjoy. The art and presentation of the game is probably my favourite part. I legitimately spent 5 minutes opening and closing the pause menu because it looks so cool. The actual art of the game is a really well done 3D graphic style that looks amazing, with the PS4 able to add some really nice looking dynamic effects, and the graphic style of the whole game gives it a really unique look that instantly stands this game out for me. I don't know how it looks on the PS3, but I would imagine it looks quite a lot worse, so if you have a PS4, definitely get it for that. Every menu, prompt, movement, and environment is well designed and it feels so fun to navigate. The game also has plenty of cutscenes, most of which are in a very cool 3D art style, but for the particularly important ones, the cutscenes are fully animated in a 2D anime style. I've only got a couple of these that I can show without too many spoilers, but it's one of my favourite parts of the game, looking really smooth and fitting the aesthetic of the game really well. The game looks really nice all the time, but it's important to remember that this is all on top of some solid, well-grounded gameplay that really makes this game. If I had to pick my least favourite part of the game so far, I'd have to say that for the first few days, I got lost making my way around town and back from school, and sometimes you have to visit a place multiple times before you can fast travel to it, which means that you can forget where things are for the first couple of in-game days. Also, I'd like it if your character spoke a bit more, but it's understandable why he doesn't. He has a voice and says some stuff every now and again, so it would match the dialogue options more if they were voice acted, at least in my opinion. I think Persona 5 is the best Persona game that I've played yet. I can highly recommend it for anyone who's played and enjoyed the other Persona games, and if you've never played them before, I can still really recommend this one as a solid experience that'll give you plenty of gameplay for what you pay. I've gotten a decent way through the storyline, and I can say that everything that I've done so far has been so much fun. So unless the ending is shit, which I highly doubt it will be considering the care that has been put into the rest of the game, then I would happily rate this game an 8.5 or even higher out of 10 depending on how interesting the story gets as it goes on. If you have a PS4 or a PS3 and are looking for a fun and interesting experience that'll keep you hooked for a long time, then this is definitely one to look into. I can't recommend the PS3 one as much because it loses quite a lot of the graphical look that the PS4 has, but even still, it's another way to experience the game. Anyway, sorry that this was such a fast review, but there wasn't actually too much to talk about because so much of the game is storyline based, which would be spoilers if I talked about it. I get that this review is a little shorter than what I normally do, so I've tried to bring it out a little earlier for you guys. So if you prefer these kind of short what makes this game awesome, let me know in the comments below. Should I do more of them, or should I stick to what I normally do? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe and hit that little notification bell to see more stuff that comes from the channel. Also, if you want to stay updated with the show, make sure to check out my social stuffs. The links are on screen now and in the description for all you people on mobile. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video, so see you there.